Regular meeting tonight. This will be our regular town board meeting for May 11th, 2020. First order of business is roll call. Ms. Eicher, are you still on the, yes you are, or did you want to take roll call?
Sure. Mayor Paul Redemeyer.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ken Bennett.
Here.
Scott Charpentier.
Present.
Barry Wilson.
Present.
Victor Talon.
Present.
David Soslowski.
Here.
Okay, item number 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. We have
It would be a slide that shows
a
us.
slide. Tell me when it's on.
Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm assuming you have a flag up for the, okay, good. Item number 3 on tonight's agenda is review of the agenda by the board in addition of items of new business to the agenda for consideration by the board. If there are any, is there anything that needs to be added or amended to the agenda? Otherwise, I would seek a motion to approve the agenda as presented this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented this evening?
Move to we,
Mr. Talon, you were first on that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Soslowski is the second. All in favor of accepting the agenda as presented this evening, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved as presented this evening. Item number 4 tonight are several different proclamations, so forgive me as I go through them here. The first is a Mental Health Awareness Month proclamation. Whereas mental health is the health of our minds affecting how we think, feel, and live, and is crucial to the physical health and emotional well-being. And whereas life's challenges can affect people's behavioral health, with more than 500,000 Coloradoans reporting they have at least 8 days of poor mental health every month. And whereas 1 in every 4 people will be affected by mental illness, and with early effective treatment, recovery is possible. And whereas local collaboration paired with community-based prevention, intervention, and treatment can prevent hospitalization or incarceration. And whereas North Range Behavioral Health combines community collaboration with a variety of services at its numerous residential and outpatient facilities throughout Weld County. And whereas knowing that children learn best in relationships, North Range Behavioral Health offers evidence-based education and consultation to caregivers to support the building of strong bonds and positive early childhood mental health. And whereas since 2014, Weld residents, without regard for ability to pay, have had access to 24/7 crisis services. And whereas at the onset of COVID-19, North Range swiftly converted to a telehealth model to continue to serve existing and new clients. And whereas Weld County residents are healthier because of North Range's collaboration with community health centers, school districts, human services, law enforcement, United Way, and many others. And whereas National Mental Health Month is observed every May to raise awareness about behavioral health, recovery, and the importance of prevention and mental wellness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Paul Redemeyer, Mayor of Windsor, along with the Windsor Town Board, hereby proclaim May 2020 as Mental Health Month in Windsor, Colorado, and upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of behavioral health and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all citizens. Our second proclamation is National Public Works Week. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets, and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on those facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of those facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, on behalf of the town of Windsor, I, Paul Rennemeyer, Mayor of the town of Windsor, Colorado, do hereby proclaim the week of May 17th through May 23rd, 2020 as National Public Works Week in the town of Windsor, and I call upon all the citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Dated today, May 11th, 2020. Our third proclamation is National Police Week and National Peace Officers Memorial Day 2020. Whereas by a joint resolution approved in October 1962, Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas the members of the Windsor Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Windsor, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Windsor Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now therefore, I, Paul Rennemeyer, Mayor of the town of Windsor, hereby proclaim May 15th, 2020 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and May 10th through May 16th, 2020 as Police Week. I call upon all the citizens of the town of Windsor to observe the week of May 10th through the 16th, 2020 as National Police Week. During this week, I encourage citizens to join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities and, in so doing, have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of the town of Windsor to observe Friday, May 15th, 2020 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty, and let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. I direct that the flag be flown at half-staff on Peace Officers Memorial Day, and further encourage all Americans to display the flag from their homes and businesses that day, dated today, the 11th of May, 2020. Our fourth proclamation is Windsor Historic Preservation Month. Whereas Local historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Paul Redemeyer, Mayor of Windsor, along with the Windsor Town Board, hereby proclaim May 2020 as Windsor Historic Preservation Month, dated today, the 11th of May, 2020. And our final proclamation is a mayoral proclamation for the appointment of board and commission liaisons for the members of the Windsor Town Board. A mayoral proclamation for the appointment of the board and commission liaisons for members of the Windsor Town Board. Whereas the Windsor Town Board is privileged to share its members with various boards, commissions, and authorities, all of which serve the interests of the town and its citizens. And whereas, following the certification of elected town board members in conjunction with the 2020 regular municipal election, the town board has discussed the assignment of its membership for service as board and commission liaisons. And whereas, the power to make appointments of town board members to board and commission positions is vested in the mayor. Now, therefore, I, Paul Redemeyer, Mayor of the Town of Windsor, Colorado, having conferred with my fellow town board members and being fully advised, hereby proclaim the following board and commission appointments. Planning Commission liaison, that will be Barry Wilson, and Victor Talon will be the alternate. Number 2, Parks, Rec, and Culture Advisory Board liaison will be Victor Talon. The Poudre River Trail Corridor Authority representative will be my replacement in District 4, that District 4 representative. The Water and Sewer Board liaison will be Ken Bennett. The Chamber of Commerce representative will be Scott Carpentier. The North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization representative is myself, and Ken Bennett will be the alternate. The Historic Preservation Commission liaison will be my replacement as the District 4 representative. The Tree Board liaison will also be the District 4 representative, yet to be determined. The Windsor Housing Authority appointee will be Mr. Szlowski. The Clearview Library Board liaison will be Scott Carpentier. And the Windsor Downtown Development Authority liaison will be myself, Paul Redemeyer, and Ken Bennett will be the alternate. The Great Western Trail Authority appointee will be Victor Talon. This is a new coalition appointee that we have made here. We are going to have a Highway 34, I-25, and Weld County Road 74 coalition representative, and that will be Ken Bennett that will be attending those meetings. We also have an additional council appointee new for this term, and that will be to the Larimer County Behavioral Health Policy Council, and that will be Mr. Barry Wilson. We also have an additional liaison position, and this was in conjunction with the town of Severance, that both the town of Severance and the town of Windsor are both going to assign a liaison to the Windsor Severance Fire Rescue District to attend their regular monthly board meetings, and that representative from Windsor will be Mr. Szlowski. So dated today, the 11th day of May 2020, those are the appointments to those positions. Moving on, board liaison reports. I don't know if we have any. I already kind of gave the update from the Chamber of Commerce. Are there any other board members who have any liaison reports. Mr. Bennett, I think there was a water sewer board meeting earlier this month already. Did you have an update from that for us?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the Water and Sewer Board did not meet. They will have a meeting by Zoom this Wednesday morning at 6:30. Mr. Rittenmeyer and myself were both on the conference call with the 34 Coalition the other day. They discussed the what's called Spaghetti Junction, which is the 85-34 interchange on the south side of Greeley, just north of Evans. It's a design concept that they're looking at. If and when they had money, estimated costs about $170 million. That's not budgeted right now. They also discussed the replacement of the bridges of 34 crossing I-25 that goes in Loveland. They'll start with the North Bridge. They're going to replace both those bridges. They will both become 3 lanes as they progress on that.
Town board
Mr.
member
Carpentier, did you have any comment about any of the town board liaison report?
Just looking forward to it, Mr. Mayor.
Town board member Wilson.
Yeah, I do have a couple things. With the Poudre River Trail corridor, the repair project where the trail was closed between and Greeley, between Kodak Bridge and 95th Avenue, is completed about a week ahead of schedule, so that has opened up. And in general, the trail usage has been very high demand during the pandemic situation. And they did reach out to me to see who was going to be assigned to the to that board from Windsor, and basically I agreed to stay on and represent Windsor until we get that replacement person for District 4. As far as Parks, Recreation, and Culture, we haven't had a meeting since our last time, but I want to thank the Tara and the rest of the staff for putting together an update for the advisory board. There's a lot going on, and tomorrow there is going to be a meeting via Zoom for the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Advisory Board, as well as the Tree Board. That's tomorrow at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. But they did send out an update. Trail usage was high. Not only high, it was referred to as exponential growth in the number of users on the trail. The Kiger Trail project is going great. That's right over by where I live, and I've been kind of keeping an eye on that there. A lot of comments about how quickly they're moving along, and it's generating a lot of excitement with folks who want to use it. Other activities, senior lunches continue to increase from the rec center. Fitness classes via Zoom have proved to be very successful. The culture department's doing a virtual museum experience. So I think there's a lot going on within Parks and Recs. A lot of the Parks and Recs employees are helping out with public works and with other town functions. Of course, mowing, aeration, all the maintenance of our parks. So once we someday do get back to normal, we'll have a beautiful park system to get back to. And then just one other thing to add. Thank Mayor Rittenmeyer for joining me on the Behavioral Health Policy Committee for Larimer County. And given the COVID situation, they did decide to give out some additional grants. So about, the COVID situation has created a strain on some of our behavioral health systems. So I'll do this as quickly as possible, but earlier in the year, some money was given out to the various school districts within Larimer County to help with suicide prevention and things like that. But an additional $115,000 was given out to 9 different organizations: the Health District, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Larimer County, for behavioral health specialists for summer youth programming, the Alliance for Suicide Prevention, that's for Veterans Outreach, a coordinator position, La Cocina, which is a bilingual full-time clinician, and then Healing Warriors is another group that received money, the Matthews House. There was the Sexual Assault Victim Advocate Center, and then the Crossroads Safe House, as well as the Center for Family Outreach. And so I just want to give everyone a heads up that those are some of the activities to try to address some of our challenges head on. So that's all, Mr. Mayor.
thank you. Town board member, Mr. Talon.
Yes, sir. I was, the Great Western Trail Authority had a meeting unfortunately, Mr. Jones and I missed connections that was unable to get in on Zoom and so I'm working with him to make sure we get that straightened out. And then I will be attending the Park and Rec and Culture meeting tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Talon. Town Board Member Kozlowski.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Fellow board members, I guess just a quick update. I missed the timing change on the Planning Commission meeting this past Wednesday, so I was not able to attend in person. I did look at the agenda and did a little more reviewing the packet and materials. In particular, just kind of alerting all of you that one of the agenda items was a response from the town to Weld County with respect to the Martin Marietta plant that is just south of 34, kind of east of 13, I think, where the county had been approached about rezoning that from agricultural to heavy industrial, and that would support the use of that property by Martin Marietta. This was an issue, of course, that was got some notoriety maybe a year and a half ago or so, where the local residents had brought litigation to oppose the use and the process of the design of that plant. Martin Marietta, in fact, deeded that land over to a rail company in order to fall under federal jurisdiction. But apparently now, for whatever reason, they needed to come back and get that rezoned. Weld County, almost more out of courtesy than an IGA, I believe, came to us and asked if we had any feedback. The Planning Commission reviewed the response from our planning department that was essentially saying we did not think that that use was consistent with our plans for that particular business corridor, urged them to reject the rezoning. But if they did move forward with rezoning, that we asked that they put in some protections with respect to light pollution, noise pollution, et cetera. I think this is something we will continue to hear about on the town board as town board members. It's not within our jurisdiction technically, but it is close enough to our community that we may all want to be briefed by Mr. Ballstadt or someone on the situation down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kozlowski. Mr. Bennett, did you have anything else to add, or did you already complete your comments about water and sewer board? Okay.
Yes.
All right, item number 6 on our agenda tonight is public invited to be heard. Individuals wishing to participate in the public invited to be heard not on a non-agenda item are requested to sign up and, or in this case, call in to be a part of our meeting. Do we have anybody sign up tonight?
Nobody.
We have nobody tonight, okay. Item B on our agenda tonight is the consent calendar. On it are 2 different items tonight: minutes of the April 13th, 2020 regular meeting, minutes of the April 27th, 2020 regular meeting, and minutes of the April 28th, 2020 special meeting. And item number 2 is our report of bills from April 2020. Are there any questions regarding the consent calendar? Otherwise, I would seek a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the board approve the consent calendar as submitted.
Second.
Okay, I have a first from Mr. Kozlowski and a second from Mr. Bennett. All in favor of approving the consent calendar as presented this evening, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the consent calendar is approved as presented this evening. Item C on our agenda tonight, board action. We have our first item, which is ordinance number 2020-1607, an ordinance of the town, an ordinance of the town board of the town of Windsor, Colorado, approving the amended and restated service plan for future Legends Sports Park Metropolitan Districts numbers 1 to 2, and authorizing the execution of an amended and restated intergovernmental agreement between the town and the districts. This is second reading. It is legislative action. Mr. McCarter, do you have a presentation to still give us this evening?
I do have just a few words of introduction, and then plan is to ask appointed special counsel
Carolyn Steffel to walk you through this one more time. And then representatives of the district are available to speak and answer any questions. So just as a matter of introduction, this is second reading of an ordinance that was introduced 2 weeks ago. The ordinance allows the future Legends Sports Park Metro districts to fund capital, debt, and O&M obligations associated with the developer's sports park complex. The full justification for this service plan amendment was presented for the record on April 27th. But this evening, what I wanted to do was give Ms. Steffel an opportunity to zero in on what exactly is being presented here, and also give the district's representatives a chance to speak. Final adoption of an ordinance under these circumstances requires 4 affirmative votes, a 2/3 majority of the 6 currently sitting town board members. So at this point, what I would like to do is turn this over to Ms. Steffel and have her walk you through this, and then the district's representatives will be available. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mrs. Steffel. I'll let you go forward from here.
Okay, and how is my sound today? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I
If
can
you have
hear
any
you.
problem, start waving. And 2 weeks ago, I needed to call in on a phone. So if the sound is not good, just let me know. Okay, well, thanks for the introduction, Ian. I'm Carolyn Steffel, and I'm a partner at Moses Woodmeyer Harrison and Woodruff law firm, and appointed by the town to be your special counsel to represent the town and provide you with legal advice in connection with special districts that are organized in the town. And so I will be helping you through the 2 action items today. First, service plan amendment, and then the organization of the BID. So first of all, the service plan is for the future Legends Sports Park Metropolitan Districts number 1 and number 2. And they have put together a service plan, which is the organizational document that has to be approved by the town before a special district can be organized in the town's boundaries. So it serves as both the organizational document, and it also provides limitations on what a metropolitan district can and cannot do. And then a special district needs to conform as much as practicable to that service plan. They need to come back to you as the town board for additional approval when they want to make what's called a material modification of the service plan. So if they want to add new services, if they want to change some of those restrictions on what their debt limit is, etc., they come back to the town board. And these metropolitan districts are organized. The district approved a service plan in September of 2019. And so they're independent local governments. They're formed for the purposes of financing the infrastructure within the sports park property. They have not yet issued debt or built too much of that infrastructure. And they're coming back today for a service plan amendment. On the 27th, the town held a public hearing as required, and all of those statutory requirements have been met to get us procedurally to this place where you can consider this amendment. So the purposes of the amendment before you today are first to change the boundaries of the district to allow them to include additional property into the district, which is an adjacent parcel purchased by the developer. Secondly, to modify the plan of the infrastructure that they'll be building because they're changing their overall project financing. And so now they're going to be financing the project with a business improvement district and also with this metropolitan district. So the individual improvements that are being financed by the metropolitan district have been modified a little bit, and the projected costs of those have changed a little bit. And third, there are some changes to the financial plan that they're proposing. These are the most substantive changes. So in the original service plan approved last September, the town board put a cap on the debt that could be issued by these metropolitan districts as $40,750,000. That is not changing. What's changing is that the metropolitan districts have asked for the ability to impose a higher amount of taxes and mill levy in order to repay that $40 million. The reason they asked for this change is because for two reasons. They said the market has changed, so the cost of borrowing money is more expensive. They expect higher interest rates. And secondly, they are projecting that the assessed valuation of the property within the district on full build-out will be less than projected last September. So because of those two reasons, the district is saying we need a higher mill levy to repay the same amount of debt. So what they're actually asking for today is for the ability to impose a mill levy up to 50 mills for the purposes of repaying debt. Previously, the limitation had been 34 mills for the purposes of repaying debt. So same amount of debt cap, but the ability to issue more, impose more mill levy to repay it. They can impose that mill levy for debt which has a term of up to 30 years. They are also asking for a change in the mill levy limit for operations and maintenance. It had previously been that together for debt service and O&M mill levy, there was a cap of 39 mills. They're asking now for no cap on O&M because of the high and unpredictable O&M costs of maintaining all of those ball fields and other public improvements. So that's one of the other main changes they have. The financial plan calls for the debt to be repaid with this 50 mills and also with a developer imposed fee that will then be refunded or would be paid back to the metro districts to repay the debt. So they're projecting a project retail fee of 1.75%, which would act like a sales tax, but it would be privately covenant imposed that the sales within the boundaries of these districts would have to impose this rate. And they're projecting a 6% lodging fee. Now those are up to the developers. Those numbers could change, but that's what they put in the financial plan. So one of the things the town board needs to do is find that under the financial plan, the district can repay the debt. What they've provided you does show that with these assumptions and the assumptions about the assessed valuation, they can repay the debt. So what you are asked to consider today is 4 statutory criteria to decide whether you want to approve this amendment. These are laid out in the ordinance. Is there sufficient existing and projected need for service in the area to be served by the districts? That there is, because you found that there was in September, and so the need hasn't really changed. Is the existing service in the area to be served by the proposed districts inadequate for present and projected needs? The town board found that when they organized these districts. Are the districts capable of providing economic and sufficient service to the area they intend on serving? And are the areas to be included in the district having or able to have the financial ability to discharge the proposed indebtedness on a reasonable basis? And that gets to that financial plan that's attached. So I know this is a lot of information, but those are the 4 statutory criteria you're looking at. And in the end, the changes are really changing the boundaries to add this new property, changing the debt mill levy limit to 50 mills, taking off the debt mill levy limit for O&M. And there are no changes to what was presented 2 weeks ago to the town board. And I'm open for questions. Also, the developers, attorneys, and representatives are on this call, and they're also able to answer questions.
Do we have any questions from any town board members at this point?
I'm seeing none, sir.
Okay.
I just raised my hand.
Oh, Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Bennett.
Yeah, hi. The 1.75 project fee, that would be in addition to the normal sales tax that we collect in the community?
Correct. That's a developer imposed fee, so it would be in addition.
And that would
and that's not a cap. They can set that at whatever rate they want. That's just what's projected.
And that portion would go to the development.
It would go, the developer would decide where it goes. So the financial plan shows that it would be paid to the Metropolitan District, but that would be pursuant to an agreement between the Metropolitan District and the developer. So it could go somewhere else. Bill, do you have anything? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And regarding lodging, if at some point the community had a lodging fee, or tax? How would that work with the Metro District?
So the lodging fee that's proposed is the same as the sales fee in that it would be a developer covenant imposed fee.
Okay.
So they're proposing a 6% fee in their financial plan. And so then they would require any tenants or individuals who purchase property to collect that fee whenever they have a rental of lodging, overnight lodging, and then to repay that to whoever the covenant says it will go to, whether it's the business improvement district or the metropolitan district or the developer.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Soslowski, you have comment or question?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Mr. Bennett asked, and I think you did answer this, but if in fact the town were to impose its own lodging tax in the future, it really would be on top of that 6%, right, as an additional lodging tax.
That's correct.
And I guess just a question, obviously some portion of this financing package, and I want to commend the developers and those working with the developer, given the kind of hiccup we had with the Weld County and CPACE financing. And I'm assuming to some extent this juggling around of mills was as a result of losing that CPACE financing. If by some miracle we are able to resurrect Weld County's consideration of participating in CPACE, will this require us to amend this in the future, I guess?
It would not. So unless they wanted to change the preliminary infrastructure plan, but I think it would probably provide enough flexibility that they would not have to come back for an amendment. So the mill levy cap is 50 mills for debt service. And so if they didn't need to impose the whole 50 mills, I mean, that's the limit, but they could impose 30, they can impose a different number without having to amend the service plan as long as it's lower than that limit.
Okay, thank you. Good job.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions from any other council or from members of the Future Legends Sports Park that are on the call with us?
This is Bill Ankley. I'm with White Bear, Ankley, Tanaka, and Waldron, and we are the lawyers who have put together this program, the Metro District Service Plan, as well as the BID plan. And I think Carolyn, as she always does, has really run through the high-level important points. One thing I wanted to announce to you, though, is that on the heels of the first reading approval that we had and the adjustments to the plan that were included, we have located an investor group that is interested in purchasing district bonds, which in this marketplace is remarkable. And it's on the strength of these changes that the investor group was willing to make this commitment. And so we are proceeding down the road with a $25 million bond issue to generate revenue to, help pay for public infrastructure within the project. So it's a tremendous successful result, and we're excited. We believe that the closing will occur as soon as the end of the month, but we're moving as fast as we can under the circumstances. So really good news there, and I think that's important for everybody to understand. That's all that I have. Happy to take any questions.
I don't see any questions from any of my fellow town board members. I guess I wanted to throw it out there
for Mr. Katofsky or Mr. Spilborgs, if anybody else had anything to add at this point.
Thanks for having this. Thanks for considering this. We did get thrown a curve.
About a month ago, and as Mr. Soslowski said, if we get lucky and things change in Weld County, that gives us more opportunity to do things. We don't need to come back to you for more. We may just reduce certain things if necessary. I'm not counting on that because it's down the line. What we need to do is we need to get rolling on the project and get it built. We have obligations to you and to our customers that we want to fulfill, and we want to get the the trucks out there and the cranes out there and move that dirt and get this thing rolling. And what you're doing and helping us pivot from what happened a month or so ago has saved the project, and I thank you for that. And I'm here to answer any questions if necessary.
Any questions of my fellow town board members for Mr. Kotowski? Okay. Is there anybody else from Future Legends that's on the call with us that would like to make a statement or ask anything of the town or anything to that effect? Mr. Spilborg, I see you're on the call. Did you have anything you wanted to throw out there? Okay, seeing none. This is legislative.
If there are no other questions from any of the fellow town board members, etc., I would seek a motion to approve ordinance number 2020-1607.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 2020-67.
Just a quick procedural question, I guess. Is it with second reading, are we required to ask for comments from public, even though I guess we know there aren't any on the Zoom call?
This has not been published for a public hearing or notice for a public hearing, so you are not required to take public comments.
Under the charter, we are required to take public comment.
I apologize.
But because there is no one else on the call outside of invited guests at this time, and no one has apparently signed up to speak, I think we can assume there are no public comments. Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind running through that formality for the record, that's appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Sislowski.
Okay, I would seek any comments from
in the public portion of this, if there are any comments from anybody on the call.
Mr. Mayor, there are none.
Okay. Seeing that there are no comments to be made from the public, I have a first from Mr. Bennett, and I don't know if I got or heard a second. Mr. Sislowski will second that. So I have a first from Mr. Bennett and a second from Mr. Sislowski. All in favor of approving ordinance number 2020-1607, signify that with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And ordinance number 2020-1607 is approved unanimously. Moving on to item number 2, ordinance number 2020-1608, declaring the organization of the Future Legends Sports Park Business Improvement District, describing the boundaries and the service area of the district, giving it the corporate name specified in the petition, establishing and appointing a board of directors, and approving the 2020 operating plan and 2020 budget. This is second reading. It is legislative action, and Mr. McCarter, you will be providing any presentation if necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is again introductory. I will hand
Most of this over to Ms. Steffel. The owners of the Future Legends Sports Park property have petitioned for the creation of a business improvement district, and the district's representatives made their case for the creation of the bid during the public hearing that was held 2 weeks ago, April 27. The ordinance did receive approval on first reading at that time and is before you now for final adoption. Ms. Steffel is here to present you with a brief outline of statutory bid powers and the specifics of how the Future Legends Sports Park BID will generate revenue in accordance with state law. The district's representatives are here as well. So at this point, I think it's best to turn it over to Carolyn and she can walk you through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this one, as Mr. McCarter stated, is a petition to organize a new business improvement district. The boundaries are going to be very similar to the metropolitan district boundaries that you just looked at, with a couple of exceptions. The inclusion property that's located to the east, the 22 acres, is not originally zoned commercial, so that would not originally be in the boundaries of the business improvement district, but if it were ever rezoned to something other than agriculture or residential, it would automatically come in because it's under the service area of the business improvement district. And also a couple of the ball fields are not included because they don't have a very high assessed valuation. So this is the ordinance that is before you actually accomplishes several things. The first one is organizing the business improvement district itself. And as the main purpose of this request by the property owners for the business improvement district was directly to replace the CPACE funding. Because of that funding gap, they needed additional funding for public infrastructure. A business improvement district can fund public infrastructure, including streets, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, pedestrian malls, streetlights, drainage facilities, landscaping, decorative things like that, including also bike paths, off-street parking, information booths, public meeting facilities, and restrooms. They can also provide services that are not just financing of public improvements. They can consult with respect to planning or managing development activities, promote or market district activities, organize, promote, market, and manage public events, and activities in support of business recruitment, management, and development, provide security for businesses, provide snow removal and trash collection and design assistance. So they can provide those commercial support features as well. The plan is for this business improvement district to actually have a perpetual existence because of those additional business support functions that they're planning to provide. But there's also a plan that they would finance the initial infrastructure that would go into the improvements as well. The business improvement district can fund their services through property taxes and special assessments. Before they can impose either property taxes or special assessments, those items need to be approved by the town board through an operating plan or budget. So a BID is a little different than a special district in that they don't have one service plan that defines what powers they have and what limitations apply. Instead, once a business improvement district is organized, they come back every year to the town board with an annual operating plan and budget. And any limitations or approvals are contained in that annual operating plan and budget. So the first thing that the town board is being asked to approve is organization of the district, and the criteria are whether the town board has jurisdiction, which it does because the land is all within your boundaries, whether the organizational petition was duly signed and presented, and it was, and whether the allegations of the petition are true, and has to be signed by the property owners. It was signed by the 100% property owners, which is the Future Legends LLC, which owns all of the property within the proposed districts right now. The districts, and then you have to look at whether the purposes of the Business Improvement District Act are being supported by the organization of the district, in that the BID would serve a public purpose, promote the public health, safety, prosperity, security, and general welfare of the inhabitants thereof, the property owners therein, and all people of the state, promote the continued vitality of commercial business areas within the municipalities, and be of special benefit to property within the boundaries of the district. So those are the substantive criteria you'll be considering. The next item that the ordinance does after you organize this BID is to decide who's going to be the board of directors of the BID. If you don't support and appoint a separate board of directors, the town board is the ex officio board of directors. So you could have that job if you wanted it. That's not what's being proposed. What we're proposing is that there be a board of 5 directors, and the initial directors that would be appointed are going to be the same as the directors who sit on the board of directors of the metropolitan districts. The board of directors need to be either owners or lessees of taxable property within the BID, or if the property is owned or leased by a commercial entity, it's their designee that can sit on the board. In the future, the BID may come back to you and ask for the ability to elect their own board members. But for now, unless they do that, the town board appoints the board members, and they serve at your discretion and can be removed if there's misconduct or conflicts. And The third thing you're going to be approving is the operating plan and budget for 2020. This contains the limitations that would normally be in a service plan. And we have made a few modifications since the operating plan that was presented at the last board meeting. So your board packet includes a red line showing those modifications. The modifications are to clarify that the BID cannot charge a payment in lieu of taxes to the town, cannot charge other fees or assessments to the town above and beyond what is included in your existing development agreement with the developer, as it may be changed, but that's, you know, you can negotiate those separately with the developer. And then the others are just clarifications, making sure that the powers of the BID match the statutory powers and other clarifications about the purposes of the BID. In this operating plan, there is a limit. The debt limit is the same as was proposed for the metropolitan districts, $40,750,000. They cannot issue debt in excess of that amount without coming back for town board approval. The operating plan, though, actually estimates that the cost of the public improvements are $22,500,000. So it may be that they don't need to issue that full amount of debt. They're also asking for the same debt limits as for the metropolitan district for mill levies, that they can impose a mill levy of up to 50 mills for debt payments. And they're asking for an unlimited mill levy for operations and maintenance purposes. There are other limitations in there that parallel the model service plan that the town board has adopted, excuse me. The fourth thing you do in the ordinance is to designate that this is a location for future commercial and business development, which is a requirement because the property has not yet been developed for commercial purposes. So those are the actions that you would be taking on second reading and approval of this ordinance. And I'm open to any questions.
Any questions for Mrs. Steffel? Seeing none?
Seeing none.
Seeing none. Are there any comments from Mr. McCarter? Do you have any follow-up comments? It looks like, I can't see your name from here, the counsel for the sports park?
Mr. White.
Sorry.
This is Bill Ankley. I want to thank Carolyn for, for her help in getting this BID put together. We've made it mesh with the Metropolitan District. It's part of our two-pronged strategy to try to recoup our losses from the CPACE problem that we had. And we feel confident that between these two mechanisms that we're going to be able to do that. So I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Mr. Sosowski.
Mr. Sosowski.
Yes, thank you. And I'm not sure, Mr. Ankley or Ms. Steffel, which of you might be the best to respond. I am curious just a little bit on the timing of this. Obviously, as I understood it, the CPACE funding, 20 million or so, was scheduled to close imminent with the actions of Weld County. What's the timing difference in receipt of funds on that CPACE funding versus this BID? Just curious.
So the BID will have to go to an election in November before we're authorized to issue debt. And so there will be, a period of time that we have to wait, which has been anticipated. And it is what it is. We have to go to an election. So. Right.
Okay. Well, again, I apologize it had to be done this way, but thank you for being flexible, again, to the developer, Mr. Katowski, for finding another solution. Thanks for all your hard work.
Mr. White, I saw you came on, or Mr. Spielbergs. Either one of you wish to comment at this point?
Yeah, so I tried to make a comment earlier, and it was, I think, probably my most heartfelt comment of all time, but unfortunately I was on the wrong muted Zoom meeting, so I apologize for that. I just wanted to say thank you to, there are so many people involved in this project, as you know. It's been a long time, and from the council to the mayor to the new mayor, special counsel, the people, the lawyers we have on our side, Hensel Feltz. This project really means a lot to everybody, and I recognize it, and I appreciate the hard effort that everybody has put forward, because I think we can all see at the end of the day how important this is for Windsor and for Weld County and for Colorado. So I just wanted to reiterate, thank you for all the hard work, because I know it's not been an easy task.
I want to say I can speak on behalf of the previous mayor. We are excited to have this project in Windsor. We are glad that it is coming to fruition, and we're continuing to move down that path towards completion. Yeah, I don't have too many belabored thoughts to say, but we appreciate all of you for being involved. I'm glad that this board, hopefully with this upcoming vote, I can't predict the future in a few minutes, but I'm hoping that it passes and we're on our way towards having this one step closer to becoming a reality in Windsor. So do we have any other? Are there any other questions from any other town board? Does Mr. Katofsky or Mr. White have anything that they'd like to add at this time?
Nothing from me.
No, thank you, other than Spilly said it better than I would. Yeah, if you have any questions, I'm here, and we really look forward to really getting rolling here and spending a lot of time in Colorado.
Well, with that,
I don't see any other questions. This is again regarding ordinance number 2020-1608. If I do not see any other comments or questions, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Talon, go ahead.
Ed?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 2020-1608.
Second.
So I have a first from Mr. Talon
And from Mr. Wilson to approve ordinance number 2020-1608. All in favor, say aye.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Before we vote on this, it's a matter of formality. Can you ask anyone from the public if they wish to comment?
I apologize. Is there any member of the public that wishes to make comment on this before we vote?
I'm seeing none, sir.
Okay, sorry for that. Thank you, Mr. McCarter. So I have a first again from Mr. Talon and a second from Mr. Wilson. All in favor of approving ordinance number 2020-1608, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. And ordinance number 2020-1608 is approved unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it. Look forward to getting this project rolling in Windsor.
Thank you, we too. Us too. We'll get it done.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, item number 3 on our agenda tonight is resolution number 2020-37, a resolution reappointing Mr. Ken Bennett to serve as the mayor pro tem of the town of Windsor, Colorado. It is legislative action. Presentation will be by myself, at least initially. I sought out Mr. Bennett a couple weeks ago and asked him if he would be willing to re-serve for another 2-year term as my mayor pro tem, and he kindly agreed to that. I reached out to him. Ken and I have served on the town board the longest, that going back now for 4 years, and we have a mutual respect for one another, and I have been okay with the representation he has had under our former mayor, and so I have asked him to serve underneath me as my mayor pro tem for another 2 years. So I don't know other than that if I have any other comments. Mr. McCarter, did you have anything you wanted to add here?
Only that it requires a 2/3 vote of the town board per the charter.
And
Mr. Wilson, you have comment or question?
Yeah, probably more of a comment than anything. You know, we went kind of through this 2 years ago. Now I find ourselves back in the same situation. And, you know, if I vote against this, it's not a vote against Ken. It's really about the process. This really is a town board decision to select the mayor pro tem. It's not an appointment by the mayor. And, you know, I reached out to at least one other municipality and said, how do you guys do this? You know, and it was really a situation where they nominate different members to step up and do it, and then if there's more than one person nominated, then there's kind of a silent vote to do it. But ultimately, this is a town board decision, and there was no real town board discussion. So, and not just with this decision, I just want to make sure as we go forward as a new town board with new members that, we don't have subsets of the town board going off and making decisions on their own. For town board decisions, that should be made by the group as a whole. So I wish this was handled differently. In the past, I just looked back over the last 10 years, we have not had anyone repeat 2 terms in a row. It's a 2-year term, but there's no rule against it either. So I think Ken has done a fine job. He's one of my favorite people on the board. So it's nothing against Ken, but it's more as we move forward on other decisions, and when we find ourselves here in 2 years, that we get together as a board and give everybody an opportunity to raise their hand or to be nominated by a peer. And so that's kind of where I'm at with this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Zaslowski?
No,
Did you have-
Mr. Talon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Talon.
Yeah, we've looked at this before, but Ken's a good choice. And I think that he'd be a good choice to go forward. Also, I was going to ask just Ken, and I said, did you hear the train coming?
Unmute, please, Ken.
I couldn't hear your question.
I was going to say, did you hear the train coming?
Yeah.
So I think he's a good choice for, since we've got new members on here, to go ahead and have him as Mayor Pro Tem. That's it.
Mr. Bennett, your hand is up next. Comment or question?
Yeah, I want to just tell Barry, Mr. Wilson, I appreciate and respect your comments a lot. I really do. I understand your point. And I've always been very open to a nomination process. That's fine with me. It's not life or death to become the designated survivor. That's why I call the Mayor Pro Tem position. So I want you to know that I respect you and I appreciate your comments. And I've told people I would like to do it for 2 more years. I like that level of involvement. But again, it's not life or death. So that's where I am.
Mr. Zaslowski.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm not even sure it's kind of worth saying. I think there were discussions, and obviously you and I had conversations about the position, and I think you properly polled a lot of the other board members. But it did surprise me when I saw this on the agenda, because I was expecting there to be some group discussion and nomination process. I fully support Mr. Bennett, respect him a lot, and I would certainly vote in favor of this resolution. But again, I was a bit surprised at the way this was done by presenting the resolution. More comment than anything, an observation, but I'm certainly not going to object to this going forward.
Okay. That's it.
Mr. Wilson just raised his hand.
Mr. Wilson.
No, just real quick, and yeah, I think Ken will do a fine job. It's more of a procedural thing. I'm not trying to derail or delay the process or take it back to square one, but let's as we make other decisions like this, or 2 years from now, or in the interim, let's make sure we involve everybody in those discussions.
And Mr. Wilson, I'll say to that, I obviously, you can tell by my format over the last couple of weeks that I'm very collaborative in nature. I had sought
Mr. Bennett to ask if he would be willing to serve. He said that he would. I know that you and I, Mr. Wilson, had a conversation where you had expressed interest in it. You didn't exactly say that, I definitely want to throw my hat into the ring. You had just said, what were your thoughts about it, et cetera. So I apologize if I, did not, I guess, take your comment to be more of an actual wanting to throw your hat in the ring on this, if that's what you were alluding to by your comments earlier.
No, I think, my feelings aren't hurt by any means, Mayor. It's not that. It's, I think look at how things were handled in the past. I think I went process initially, going back, a few weeks or a month, thinking, okay, this is going to come up, Ken will probably move on, and somebody else will step forward, possibly David Sislowski or myself. And I think that was maybe an assumption I had early on, maybe an incorrect assumption. So we're good. I've said my piece, and so we can just move forward.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none?
Is there a motion to approve resolution number 2020-37?
Mr. Mayor, I do move that the board approve resolution 2020-37.
Second.
Seeing a first from Mr. Sislowski and a second from Mr. Talon, all in favor of approval of resolution number 2020-37, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay.
Congratulations, Ken.
And it passes with a vote of 5-1. The votes for are Mr. Sislowski, Mr. Carpentier, Mr. Talon, Mr. Bennett, and myself, and the opposing nay was Mr. Wilson. With that, we'll move on to item D, communications from town attorney, Mr. McCarter.
Nothing further from me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Communications from town staff. Who all's on the call here? We have Mr. Klimick, Chief?
No comment, sir.
Okay. We have Mr. Lucas. Any comments from our Director of Public Services?
Just to thank the board and the mayor for the proclamation for all the work staff. Appreciate it. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments from Ms. Euchre? Or Ms. Eicher, I always say her name wrong. I'm sorry.
Just a reminder that I'll be sending out that vote affirmation, and if you can get that back to me by 5 o'clock tomorrow, that would be great. Thank you.
Communications from Mr. Moyer, our Director of Finance.
Nothing from, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Thornhill.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Ms. Miller, our Director of Economic Development.
No communications, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Ballstadt.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to point out that I believe you have some materials for the Taco Bell at the brand in your packet under communications. And those are there simply for the board's information. And if you have any questions or comments, please forward those to staff. And the only other item I wanted to address was per Mr. Sislowski's board report about the Weld County referral. Staff will put together a brief synopsis and get that out to the board so that everybody's got the same information about the history of that referral and where the Planning Commission landed. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ballstadt, I will go back to Mr. Lopez, our police commander. I saw you're on the line. Did you have any communications for us?
Nothing to add beyond what's already been discussed, other than to echo some of Mr. Lucas's comments. Thank you for the proclamation recognizing our officers and their efforts in the community. Greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely, and we appreciate our police force. Communications from town manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I would just point out to the board that also in your packet was the monthly Invisio report. So please let me know if you have any questions about that.
Okay. Communications from town board. Are there any town board members that have anything that they would like to share with the rest of us? Seeing none? I have one last thing to share with everybody, which is our graduation announcement for Windsor High School. For some of you that may or may not have seen it on social media, I did help our principal, Ms. Scallon, hand out diplomas, caps, and gowns. Was glad they put me to work, but I offered to come to their day of pickup last Thursday. It was a very windy day, but I was able to work on my tan all at the same time. And but they are having their formal graduation ceremony later this month. It will be, it's to commemorate the class of 2020 from Windsor High School. It's a virtual graduation ceremony instead of an in-person graduation, given our circumstance. It will be on Sunday, May 24th, beginning at 12:30. The ceremony will feature several speakers as well as the announcement of all the graduates one by one. To watch the live stream of the ceremony, you can tune in to our cable channel television, WTV Channel 8. That is, if you're on Comcast, you're able to tune that in, or on the Town of Windsor YouTube channel, or on the Windsor High School Facebook page. I do know from last Thursday there are 371 graduates that will be moving on, and there were a lot of tears as they said goodbye last week. It was a very moving moment, and I hope all the residents of Windsor will tune in on May 24th at 12:30 to take part in the graduation ceremony. So with that, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Sorry.
Just as a reminder, we have the current board meeting right.
Oh yeah, so we have the current board meeting right after this, so we'll all need to call back in for that, or is that?
Stay on this.
Is it just a continuation?
Meeting.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second to adjourn by Mr. Talon. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And we are adjourned.